What does Garten of Banban hide off camera in Chapter 6? In Garten of Banban 6, we're tasked with exploring this nightmarish facility, with the end goal of obtaining the Queen's Scepter. Of course, this is a horror game after all, so it won't be nearly as easy as it sounds. From a violent encounter with Sir Dadoo to an intense face-off with Little Beak, there's a lot that stands between us and the Scepter. Today, we're taking a look behind the scenes at some things we're not usually meant to see, like what happens to Little Beak after being crushed by the bird room doors. There's lots more than that as well, so I hope you enjoyed today's look behind the scenes of Garten of Banban 6. And real quick, the official trailer for my horror game Zardy's Cave just released, which was previously called Zardy's Maze 2. I'm so excited, so if you want to watch that, you can find it linked below. Now, as per usual, I like to do a recap to make sure we're all refreshed on what we'll be covering. However, due to the length of this chapter, we'll be recapping each section as we get to it. So we start the 6th chapter at the bottom of the elevator with Sheriff Toadster by our side. After a brief scare with the naughty ones, we'll reach a door that must be unlocked. In order to get through it, we'll have to hit a set of buttons throughout this floor that are locked behind puzzles and challenges. Before setting off, we'll climb these pipes to get a flashlight for our drone, only to be forced jump scared by the Nanny. After this, we head to the first puzzle, where Giggle is found behind a locked door. After a close call with Sir Dadoo, we exit the puzzle room and head back to find Banbalina and Sheriff Toadster waiting for us. They then get attacked by a naughty one, resulting in Banbalina being kidnapped and Sheriff Toadster running into the darkness after her. So after rewinding time, the very first thing I did was take a brief look out of bounds, where I found tons of assets stored out here that will be used throughout the chapter. Some of these are characters that are held outside the map until we trigger them, and others are simply map assets that serve a function within the level, like buttons and doors. There are several platforms and rooms containing these models and interactable objects, and there's honestly too many to list off in one go. We'll be discussing some of these further as we move on, but for now, let's head back inside the map. Before we leave the elevator room, there's a door here that we can't usually open or access, and moving the camera beyond it shows that there's nothing on the other side anyway. It's simply a piece of set dressing and nothing more. Now, when we first set foot into the main hub here, it's too dark to see much of anything. Sheriff Toadster instructs us to run, as the naughty ones can get us in the dark. But with the lights on, you can see that there's nothing surrounding us anyway, meaning this was a pretty big overaction on Toadster's behalf. That being said, this area isn't exactly safe despite the lack of visible dangers. As we walk out into the darkness, we'll be attacked if we don't get to safety quick enough. Moving the camera above the ceiling, I spotted a naughty one frozen in place, hovering just above the roof. This enemy remains here indefinitely, and if the player ignores this game's warning, it'll teleport above us and drop down onto us, clipping through the ceiling in the process. To avoid this unfortunate demise, we'll climb the pipes on the wall and into this cabin-like building up above. There are a few open rooms as well as some lockers, but what I'm interested in is the Nanny. As soon as we grab the light for our drone, this blue pig-like monster will appear behind us and begin approaching. This enemy was moved here from out of bounds, and we can even find them out here in the walking animation before we ever enter the cabin. When the jump scare occurs, they'll lunge in our face, and we must reincarnate to continue. We get very little time to observe this character, and we're also locked in place as it plays out, so it's cool seeing them from these various angles. Now, before we head off to the first puzzle, there's this house off to the side that we can't usually access. If we take a quick peek inside, we'll see a table and some chairs near the window, but not much else. Surprisingly, making my way to the first puzzle was a bit harder than expected. Because everything was brightened up, I had no idea whether I was in the dark or not, so I basically stayed glued to my drone the entire way. Heading inside, there isn't really much to see, considering it's a pretty straightforward puzzle. After we free Giggle and align each of the colored lights, we'll hide away inside that same room as an alarm sounds around us. Sir Dadoo will then appear and begin banging on the door. From an outside perspective though, he simply slides into place and begins talking to us through the door. Even when the door is being slammed, Dadoo remains completely still. Afterwards, he'll slide directly out of view and through the wall where he remains floating. When we return to the locked door, Sheriff Toadster and Banbalina will be waiting for us on these wooden structures. They're definitely not happy with Giggle in tow, and they tell us we need to leave. Of course, they're the ones that are leaving instead, as a naughty one lunges at them and kidnaps Banbalina. When this takes place, a dark barrier is loaded in, and Banbalina is pulled through it. Sheriff Toadster then follows along before all of them are warped out of the map. Most of the characters we encounter can actually be found outside the map, and in some cases, there are multiple versions of the same character. They'll be moved moved in and out of the map depending on what is needed, whether it's a cutscene or a freely moving NPC. Now after this cutscene plays out, we can head to the next sector and continue our journey. We'll stumble across one of the experiment jesters, arguing with their other half, and after a short scuffle, they fall into the abyss below. We then hit a couple of buttons using our drone, where we stumble across yet another jester, this time rocking in the corner and talking to himself. After meeting up with Banban, we'll head up some stairs, where this area's puzzle is located. We basically shuffle these statues around in the right order to power the red door within this area. A naughty one will run out with a metal bar, and as we pick it up, Sir Dadoo appears behind us on top of the entrance. As we shelter inside, he attacks Banban, only to be fought himself by Giggle. So rewinding time a bit, I was curious what happens to the Jester's halves when they disappear into the abyss. As their disagreement reaches a boiling point, one half will dropkick the other into the void below, and following them reveals that their fate isn't so grim. They stop falling just beyond this gray barrier and just gonna float here for eternity. It's still not an ideal outcome, but hey, we got a cool hat from it, so why complain? As we make our way through the stairwell up ahead, we'll find an experiment jester who's missing a leg just sitting in the corner. We can't typically get in front of them, but if we did, we'd see that they don't have any eyes. It's actually pretty terrifying watching them rock back and forth like this, especially knowing their condition is much worse than we ever realized. Now, as we head back upstairs, Banban meets up with us in the lobby where we can head up to the next puzzle. We fiddle around with the statues for a bit before we can open the door, and we can see just beyond it, there's a naughty one waiting for us. Once open, this creature will bolt through the door with a metal rod sticking out of its head and slither to the hedges. After dropping the bar, it leaps over the shrubbery and dives out of bounds. Similar to the split up jester from before, this monster will then freeze a short ways beneath the map and remain here permanently. As we pick up the metal rod, Sir Dadoo will instantly appear on top of the exit and stare us down. Well, he would if he had eyeballs anyway. If we don't get inside in time, we'll be jump scared and die instantly. However, if we make it to safety, we can watch as Dadoo headbutts Banban straight into the glass, incapacitating him until we leave. Giggle then appears using instant transmission and leaps onto his back. Things get weirder though, as Dadoo disappears and Giggle flies into the air, eventually being flung into the player's sight once again. It's an intense fight from the player's point of view, but from this outside angle, it's actually pretty hilarious. Now, as we leave behind our incapacitated comrades, we'll head down into the basement in order to locate this sector's switch, but it won't be so easily accessed. In order to open the door to the office, we must first complete a challenge that involves shining lights on an unending array of naughty ones. Once this minigame begins, they'll start approaching from these dark hallways, and our only line of defense consists of a few lamps. There's also a hole in the ceiling where another, much larger naughty one appears, and the use of a rechargeable light is required to fend them off. After completing this challenge, the switch can be activated, where we then return to the entrance area. So before starting the minigame, we can have a closer look at the area surrounding us to get a better idea of how it works. Upon closer inspection, you can see that these dark hallways aren't actually all that big. They simply extend out of the map and come to an end beyond the player's sight. What's most interesting is that each of these hallways has a naughty one inside, and they're already loaded in before we ever hit the start button. They'll each remain where they are until they're activated, where they'll slink over to the rail and wait in place. There's also the hole up top where the giant naughty one appears from, and if we take a closer look, we'll find that it leads out through the roof and into the void. I'm not entirely sure what it's for, but there's also a rail stored up here similar to the ones used within this minigame. With the lights on, we'll see that the naughty one up top will instantly spawn in and pop its head out into the room below. When jump scared, this particular enemy will move back up out of sight and unload temporarily. It then appears once more to lunge out and fly directly at us. After being jump scared and respawning, something a bit odd took place. So when you die in this game, for a brief moment before loading back into the map, your screen will flash this dark gray color. For some reason, I got stuck during this transition, where I learned that it's really a completely separate room from the rest of the map. It's a small box without a ceiling that the player is placed in while the rest of the map generates around us. But instead, the game never moved me back into the actual map. So in order to continue, I had to reload my save completely. So as we head back to our DIY base camp, we'll find a few more characters hanging out here than before. After a brief conversation with Banban, we'll have a talk with Stinger Flynn, where a short cutscene takes place. In this weird dreamscape, we're sitting at a bus stop with the rest of the gang as we wait for the bus to arrive. Stinger Flynn insists on getting to the beach, but Banban is intent on giving up. And as things start to heat up, Captain Fiddles is kidnapped by the following bus. Nabnab then gets hit in the road, only for the rest of us to get clobbered directly after. When viewing this cutscene seen from a different angle, the first thing you'll notice is that the weather forecast includes local showers. The rain effect you see throughout this cutscene only exists around the bus stop, and nowhere else in the rest of the map. Overall, this entire map is pretty straightforward, being only a flat plain with a road through the center, the bus and bus stop, and of course, our terrifying pal Zolphius chilling in the background. So when the first bus is set to arrive, it will leave from its idle position just beyond the edge of the map and drive in front of the gang here. Because this is the wrong bus, it'll just continue on and drive right past us. And after reaching the far side, it'll freeze for a moment before instantly warping back to its starting point. This of course takes place outside the player's sight, so you never know that it's the same asset being reused each time. Now when Captain Fiddles gets kidnapped, the bus that arrives is a bit different in appearance from the original. In this shot, you can actually watch as the bus is replaced by this rusted version as soon as it begins approaching the player. When it arrives, we can then watch as Captain Fiddles climbs inside and is taken away. He sort of just pelvic thrusts into the aisle as the vehicle takes off, clipping through the floor as he's carried away. He then unloads after leaving the map. Once again, the bus is sent back to the starting location where it changes back to its cleaned up version. As it heads down the road, it doesn't actually stop this time, and Nabnab runs into his path only to be sent flying into the void. He eventually stops out of bounds here, and he's not looking too good either. When the final bus appears to run us over, we'll see that it's the very same model used throughout this cutscene. It's warped into position and instantly starts barreling towards us. With one character being kidnapped and the rest of us run over, the public transportation here is surprisingly lethal. After this cutscene ends, we can continue our journey into the darkness. The last of this area's sectors involves a small doctor's office where we have to grab 8 lollipops to continue. After the door is opened, we'll walk outside to find a huge drop that leads us to a boss fight. Here, we'll have to distract the chemically infused Opila Chick, also known as Little Beak, as we power the electricity traps surrounding us. To do this, we must equip Mr. Kebab Man with several parts and send him out to get Little Beak's attention. We can then run into tents surrounding us to snag some batteries, allowing us to power the trap and temporarily stun our giant adversary. As we attempt to leave, Little Beak will try to attack us through the door, only to be crushed in the process. Fortunately, this only turns them back into a chick, and they run away mostly unharmed. From here, we'll solve a jump puzzle where we navigate through these giant pedals, grab a keycard, and then head back to meet up with the others. Now, before we head into the boss fight area, I wanted to take a peek inside the giant green room that occupies the center of this map. In doing so, we'll find that there's nothing inside, and it's completely hollow. Up ahead, though, we'll come to this hospital area, and after opening the door, we drop down into the Little Beak boss fight. With the lights on, we can see the area we're dropping into better, and the huge grassy area around it. There are multiple pieces of ground here that we can't usually see. So when we jump down into the boss fight room, we can have a quick look around and see a few objects stored out of bounds. There's some foliage stored behind us, as well as the tree where Little Beak perches throughout the fight. Speaking of our giant enemy, we can have a closer look at this monstrous Opila Chick as well. What's funny is that, although menacing in appearance, they're not actually sitting on the branch. Their left leg is slightly clipping through it, but the other isn't even touching it. Across from Little Beak, we can also see that the platform Banban is standing on doesn't lead anywhere at all, and it extends slightly out into the void before stopping abruptly. As for the boss fight itself, Little Beak will leap from the branch they're standing on and fly over our head. We can watch this happen in bullet time, which reveals just how fast our enemy really is. After leaping straight up, they'll fling forward at Mach speed and then glide to the perch opposite to them. The margin of error for avoiding this attack is super small, and if we're even a little too slow, she'll dive right on top of us. It's somehow even scarier now, knowing that even in slow motion, she's still able to move this quickly. In order to get past this fight, we'll have to distract Little Beak using Mr. Kebab Man as we set up the electrical trap. The barrels we roll out of the tents, as well as Mr. Kebab Man himself, will be taken away, giving us a short window to navigate the area. When this takes place, each of these assets will be moved out of bounds. The barrels are stored way outside the bird room, while Mr. Kebab Man is moved directly underneath the main boss fight area. When we've successfully powered the trap, her next attack results in the trap blasting her with who knows how many volts of electricity. You'll see that the sparks are only in the vicinity of the player and not Little Beak herself. After the room ahead opens up, we can hit the recharge button for the doors, which also causes Little Beak to disappear. As soon as we hit the button to close the doors, she'll load back in directly above the doors and drop down into view. When she lunges forward and gets smashed by the doors, we can see that she freezes in place and then drops straight down as the Opila Chick model loads in on the floor. When we approach, she'll stand back up and run out of sight, leaping over the bushes and clipping straight through into a wall. She then freezes in the void before vanishing completely. While I was down here, I also realized that the giant model is still loaded in, and is frozen directly beneath the doors, where she was just pancaked. As we continue forward, we'll come to the giant platform puzzle. Each time we jump on one of these buttons, the paddles affixed to the poles surrounding us will rotate, making it harder to find a clear path to the end. What's interesting is that beneath the floor, we'll see several of these button platforms stored out of bounds. They vary in color, and I'm not certain of the purpose. Something else I found neat is that there are also some pedals here as well, and they're even responsive to the buttons up above. Overall, this puzzle is a bit larger than I initially thought, and seeing it from this angle is pretty cool. After grabbing the key card and heading back to meet up with the rest of the gang, Banban opens up the cage and frees Nabnab, which definitely won't come back to bite us later. He then jumps onto the house and leaps deep into the darkness. We can now open the big set of doors and walk inside to obtain the scepter, where Nabnab makes an immediate reappearance to press the button repeatedly. We're then confronted by Sir Dadoo, leading to Banban injecting Nabnab with that oh-so-dangerous chemical in order to fight him off. A naughty one begins chasing us through the side pathway, eventually leading to a broken railing where Giggle parts ways with the player. After arriving at the elevator, Sir Dadoo, alongside several other seemingly possessed characters, appear behind you, forcing Banban to stay behind and hold them off while you go onward to find the surgeon, thus bringing Chapter 6 to a close. So jumping back in time a bit, when Nabnab makes their escape, he usually vanishes into the shadows, so we can never see where he actually goes. Well here, as you can see, he sort of just flies away in a Superman pose. At the end of this animation, he stops partially clipped into the ceiling, and he stays up here for the remainder of the game. As we step inside to collect the scepter, Nabnab loads in behind us and jumps over to the eject button where the rest of the sequence plays out. As I said a moment ago, the previously caged version never unloads, so we can fly outside and find them still stuck in the roof. When Dadoo arrives, he'll instantly appear in the doorway and begin slithering into sight. In order to fight back against him, Banban chemically injects Nabnab and then throws him into a railing. As he falls, he'll clip through the floor and instantly warp out of the map as the chaotic version takes his place. He starts off hilariously small and enlarges into the towering creature we see take on Sir Dadoo. After effectively vanishing into the darkness, they'll freeze in place momentarily before Nabnab is moved out of bounds. However, Dadoo is only moved slightly to the side, clipping through both the wall and Kittysaurus. Next, we'll run through this pathway surrounded by hedges while being chased by a naughty one. And during this time, I noticed a rather neat Easter egg. On the outer wall to our right is some text that reads, "Your flying skills are impressive." I believe this is a call out for hackers and game-breaking channels, since to my knowledge, there isn't another way to view this body of text during a typical playthrough. So, if this is in fact a message for game breakers, thanks for the compliment, game devs. Up ahead, Giggle says that he can't miss his only chance at having an audience, and then leaps into the darkness below. He doesn't get too far before freezing in place though, which seems to be a common trend with this chapter's characters. Finally, we'll be confronted by Dadoo and his army of possessed characters. They'll instantly load in just behind us, and they're a lot more menacing than before. They've all been changed to this grayscale appearance with purple eyes and features. When we start going down on the lift, the sounds of an all-out battle can be heard above, but as you can see, nothing actually happens. All these characters are completely still, and will remain in place until the credits begin to roll. And with that, that's everything I found behind the scenes in Garten of Banban 6. We've still got lots to cover in Chapter 7, so make sure you're subscribed, that way you won't miss our future coverage of this spooky series. Check out the new official trailer for my horror game on screen now, and I'll see you all in the next video. Cheers!